You good? All right, cool. All right, Tanner, we're already recording. Hello, and welcome to a special bonus episode of the StreamKick Podcast. I'm your host, Camper, and I've brought along the intrepid RoboKast and the always straight edge Ace. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. Absolutely.
And tonight we are joined by a special guest and good friend of ours, Kent Ward of Ongaku Overdrive and CEO Fighting Game Championship fame. Welcome, Kent.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? I'm excited to talk to you guys tonight. And yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Awesome, man. And if you guys don't know anything about nerd music or fighting game esports, we are going to fix that shit tonight on this show. Kent, you and I met at a Twitch Orlando meetup last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I think you were doing like a presentation or something, and you were talking about Ongaku Overdrive. We're gonna dig into that here in a minute. You were kind of explaining like this event that you had planned, and I kind of thought I, knew about this kind of stuff going on, especially in town and everything. And I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this thing. I don't know what it is, but it sounds cool. And so I went up and chatted with you about it. You told me, and you're like, yeah, come on out, man, check out the show. And I went, and dude, I had so much fun. Like I was a little nervous going because I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's basically like this really cool concert in like this awesome venue right near where I live. So it was really convenient. But anyway, I can't wait to talk about this tonight because I feel like this is one of those like really cool kind of like, not really secret, but like not a lot of people know about this or have been exposed to it. And then it's like when they get into it and they realize like how much there is to it, and how much like how many different artists there are and how many different styles of music there are that all kind of fall into this bucket. They see like there's kind of something for everybody. And that's like what's really appealing about it.
Yeah, I agree. Like the trickiest part is getting the word out and convincing people to leave their home and come out to one of our events. But once they come out, they always have a good time. And I take pride in making sure everyone does have a fun, safe time at our events and enjoy all the acts. And we put together lineups that, that I feel when putting on stage in front of people will knock it out of the park. So it's funny that you mentioned that. We met last year, and I just remember like one of the last public outings that I went to before this whole thing went down. I saw you at the last Twitch Orlando meeting.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we ran into each other at the Orlando meetup, and I gotta say, for those of you that are listening, if you're on Twitch, even if you're not on Twitch, if you're on another platform, definitely take a look. Go like I don't know, Twitch has some site you can go to like meetups.twitch.tv or something like that, but you can just usually find it on Twitter. These meetups are awesome. Like I've met people like Kent and at least a dozen other people that I've connected with in this community. That I've run into at other events. And I've just learned so much about just like streaming and gaming and just that entire culture from meeting different people from like different walks of this industry, which has been cool. So definitely take a minute to do that. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. We're here to talk about nerd music, as you guys call it, right? I think that's an affectionate term.
That's the label we use. Yeah.
Yeah. And the CEO Fighting Game Championship. And I wanted to kind of focus on the nerd music thing and Ongaku Overdrive first. Kent, if you would just kind of give us like a 101 on this stuff, man, for people that, like me, that just getting into it or don't know too much about it.
Yeah, sure. I guess my introduction to the community was through video game music. I've been a long time fan of video games, like most other nerds, going all the way back to the Atari 2600, all the way to where we are now. And I've always had an affinity for great video game soundtracks, even as a kid. So when I started finding out that people, like when we first got internet, I started finding out that people online were just making their own video game remixes. And then I found out actual video game bands existed, and it kind of snowballed from there. Then a little over a decade ago, found out that shows were happening throughout the country where these kind of acts would get on stage and play these songs live in front of people, whether it be Final Fantasy music or Mega Man music, So I was like, all right, I gotta go to one of these shows. And when I went, I was just completely blown away. And like, the first set of acts I would see would be guys like Mega Ran or The Adventures of Dwayne and Brando or The Megas or Random Encounter. But then I started seeing other acts called nerdcore acts. Because I thought of it as video game rap, what Mega Ran does, right? But then there's like a whole world of like nerdy hip-hop from guys like Schaefer the Dark Lord and MC Frontalot and MC Lars. And I'm like, that's dope as hell. And I was already listening to hip-hop, but I felt like it was hip-hop that was geared towards me because I'm a longtime gamer and anime fan and someone who's grown up with comic books and martial arts movies. So I feel like this whole music scene was something that was straight up my lifestyle, but the soundtrack to it. So I feel like it's very infectious, it's very fun, very positive, and it's a lot of creative stuff that goes in there, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool, Ken. I mean, that was, to me, that was like one of the most exciting things when I went to that first event, was seeing there was so many different kinds of music. There were so many different acts. There was like, you know, kind of like more like a DJ type act. And then there were people who got up there and they were like really engaged with the audience and like moving around a lot. You know, some stuff was like really heavy on the lyric side, kind of like what you're talking about with the rap and stuff, which I thought was neat. And then you had other guys who, it was just all about the music. It was all about the vibe. It was more like a DJ set, like EDM style, like set, where it's just like lights. The DJ's just kind of there, and it's just, you know, you just kind of get lost in like the beat, right, or the melody. You just kind of like really get absorbed into it.
Mm-hmm.
When you first found it, were you living in Orlando at the time? Like, how did you like discover that was a thing?
I moved to Orlando in 2003 to go to Full Sail University for game development. And I grew a love for Orlando. I started going to events like MegaCon and Anime Fest for Orlando. I was a regular at Rocky's Replay, which was a prominent arcade at the time. So I got really absorbed into the Orlando nerd culture. I think shortly after that, a comic shop opened. And they're pretty much, for a while, the epicenter of geek culture in Orlando. And then they spawned the Geek Easy. Nerdapalooza formed around that time as well. So all these things were just happening at the end of the last decade, where it really felt like nerd culture was really dominating. The Marvel movies were really taking off in theaters. Comic books and anime were becoming more socially acceptable. Everyone was playing video games. Like, these things that were made fun of as kids growing up were now super cool. So late 90s with things like Nerdapalooza and the Geek Easy taking off, it just felt like it was a big celebration of who we were. So it's like just a crazy cataclysm of events.
Damn, has Geek Easy been around that long?
Yeah, it was previously owned by Aaron Howland, who owns a comic shop, and it was supposed to be just a speakeasy type place where people would hang out and read comic books. And then people started doing parties and events there. And then it started turning to, let's do shows there. And the Geek Easy back then is way primitive compared to what it is now. Like, there's no stage. There's actually a smaller venue. They didn't even have a real bar. Like, they would have tables set up and it was bring your own beer, you know, for a while. Then they eventually got a liquor license and they started selling bar. They started upgrading the venue to have stage, lighting, sound, and also the ability to stream shows, which we've taken advantage of in the past for some of our events there. But it's evolved heavily, but back then it had like this tight underground feel, but it was also a swelling of just things were going to explode in Orlando, and they did.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, you know, it was not it was not cool at all back then to be into that stuff. You know, you kind of like, you know, you were into like comic books or video games or whatever, and it was kind of like, you know, like you said, like sometimes you get made fun of for that. It just wasn't like cool. And now, like now's a really awesome time to be a nerd because,
yeah,
you know, like all the nerds are like big entrepreneurs now too. Like, you look at all these guys who are like billionaires now, and they were all just like software developers or like, you know, engineers or nerds and stuff. You know, it's awesome.
I agree, but it's weird now because like there's generations of people who are in the anime and video games that are younger than us that don't know what it was like to go through that, because now it's all normalized. Like, it's liking video games and comic books is a part of everyday life now.
So, like, on that note, like, when you first started this, what was the participation like? How much did you have to go out of your way to get people to participate? Was there already like a group of people who were interested in this and willing to show up, or did you kind of have to do a whole lot of outreach?
There's already a lot of people that were going to an event called Nerdapalooza, which had existed in Orlando from 2008 to 2013, if I got the years correct. I think that's right. And it was like kind of what we do, but it had different nerdcore, chiptune, video game bass acts, comedy acts as well, and even stuff like burlesque. And it was a cool time. But one of the things I noticed was it wasn't really like catering to the anime crowd. I felt like, okay, we're going to do all this stuff for video games and comic books, especially with the partnership they had with the comic shop at the time. And I felt like the anime crowd was left out. Like, I was working for Anime Fest for Orlando at the time. I was running an anime club in Orlando called Propeller Anime, and I'm seeing this, and it's like, well, what about us? And I was told by people on Nerdapalooza staff, well, there's not really any crossover with nerdcore and anime. And meanwhile, Richie Branson's touring with MC Chris while it's all going down. And it's like, that's not really true. Especially now, like, that statement doesn't age really well these days either when you see the explosion of anime raps on YouTube and how many views they're getting each week, you know. But I was like, all right, well, if you guys aren't going to try to reach out to the anime crowd, then I will, because I'm already connected to them, because I'm doing AFO, I'm doing MegaCon, I'm running an anime club, so I'm already connected with that community. So I'm like, hey guys, this thing I'm interested in, this is cool too, so why don't you come out and check that out? So the first event I had was not an Ongaku Overdrive event, it was actually Propeller Anime Charity Party, and we had like one of the, I guess now, the top nerdcore MC there is, Megaran as our headliner, and a lot of people had not seen Megaran at that charity party, and they were just blown away by it, and we got such a huge positive reception that it was like, all right, well, there's something to this, well, why don't we do an event that specializes on promoting these acts and showcasing these acts. So that's how Ongaku Overdrive came to be.
Dude, it always amazes you when I talk to you about this stuff because you're like the walking fucking Wikipedia of nerd music, dude. I'm like you're even your years. I'm like looking up Nerdapalooza on Wikipedia right now, and you're absolutely right. Like your years are spot on. In fact, one of the main image on Wikipedia for the event is from a comic shop. So
yeah,
that's great.
They used to do some after parties then too. So yeah, comic shop and the geeks used to be more heavily involved in the community. I know things have changed over the years, especially with new ownership. But like there was a period of time where it's like that was the center of everything as far as nerdy Orlando is concerned.
That's cool. Yeah, honestly. So like I was talking about it to you for a little bit before the podcast, but you know, I'm not very familiar with this type of music. You know, like I've heard it obviously, but I think my first experience with it was actually at E3 2019. And when I was in the queue to get in, we were waiting there for a couple hours, and I heard this band playing like remixes of popular video game music. So I wanted to ask, it was simple, you know, they were basically just playing these video game songs on instruments, but like what genre would that fall into, and how does that compare to the other things, like the different types of genres? Like how could you explain those to somebody like me who knows nothing about them?
Well, I have a theory of who you probably had heard, because I know some of the acts that do play at E3.
Of course you do.
And I have a strong feeling.
So.
I have a strong feeling. Was it a jazz band with percussion instruments?
Yeah.
Super Soul Bros. Awesome.
That's who it was.
Oh, I met those guys at TwitchCon.
They were so cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're my favorite video game band. They're incredibly talented, and every concert they do is completely unique because they're a jazz band. They can improvise anything. Yeah. So we call it video game bands, video game cover bands, whatever you want to call them, right? But that's not one specific genre. In fact, it's all the genres. So Super Soul Bros, jazz soul band. There's plenty of rock bands like Arm Cannon, The Sense of Erdrick. There's metal bands like Power Glove and Night of the Round, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like the kind of metal music you would hear. It's just like that, except it's like they're playing video game melodies on those instruments. And then we got mariachi bands now, like the Mariachi Entertainment System that does all video game music mariachi style, and that's incredible.
That's
and
cool.
Then there's the hip hop aspect where guys like Megaran will have video game songs remixed to a hip hop style beat and then rap over it, whether it be telling a unique story about the game or doing a character based song, or maybe just using that beat as a background to just rap about what they want to rap about, whether it's technology or hacking or politics or what's going on in our daily lives. So it's pretty fluid, and it's not really one style of music. As a matter of fact, like Richard said earlier, it's something for everyone. You're going to find a nerdcore act that you like. You're going to find a video game band that you like, or a chiptune act that you like, and there's a lot of cool stuff out there. There's a lot of options to enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I loved listening to that band for the 17 trillion hours I was waiting to get into E3. So honestly, after this podcast, I may investigate a little bit more and find some of it online.
Yeah, they can definitely play that long too. Like they're nonstop. That's like one of the reasons I like Super Soul Bros so much, because they can just make up stuff on the fly, but also stay true to like whatever they're playing, whether it be a Sonic the Hedgehog song or something from Persona or Mega Man or whatever,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Robo. I met those guys at TwitchCon a couple years ago, and I've got some pictures from them. I talked to them for a while at the charity section. I'll share them with you. They're really nice guys. They were handing out. Well, they weren't handing out. They were selling their albums, and they were on. I think it was Super NES cartridges.
No way.
So when you bought the album, it actually came on a Super NES cartridge.
Dude.
I think it had like a USB stick or something in it to like.
I wish they had those whenever we saw them. I would have totally bought one.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of creative merchandise as well from our community now. Like, everyone's stepping up their game to have crazy USB drives. Like, Megaran has one for his Final Fantasy album that he's got coming out. That's the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII, but it's a USB drive with the whole album for Black Materia that's coming out, and just all kinds of wild stuff like that's existing now. That's super cool and collectible.
Yeah, that's another thing about this, like, this side of this culture that I like so much is, like, the band names are so creative, like their song names are creative. Like I'm still in that Wikipedia article. I kind of went down a rabbit hole right now, but like who are Schaefer and the Dark Lords, the Bit Brigade, Brental Floss, the One Ups, DJ Robo Rob, Emergency Pizza Party. Like, these names are awesome.
Wow.
And then they go through and do like all the cool stuff in terms of like you said, like with the merchandise and like how they present themselves and everything. And I feel like that's something that like this genre of music kind of has like really unique to itself, besides the fact that it's like gaming and like, nerd culture oriented, but it just has like, you say a band's name, like you said, or that album, you said Black Materia, like any Final Fantasy fan is going to immediately like associate with that, whether they've heard that album or the artist or the music or not. They're just going to be like, oh, like I know what that's from Final Fantasy.
Yup. Good stuff all around.
Yeah, man. Tell me real quick, because I've been meaning to ask you this. I meant to ask you this last time I saw you, and I always forget. But can you describe chiptune to me? Like, what is that? Like, I have a hard time understanding like exactly what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's different meanings to it. Like, some people think it's a genre of music, which is not entirely true, but on some cases it can be true. Other people look at it as more of an instrument. But the idea is artists now are able to harness the sound of like old game hardware, primarily the Game Boy, but the Genesis, the Commodore 64 have been used as well, either by getting the sound directly from the hardware to create samples, or they use emulation to create, instruments or tunes that sound just like you would hear it on a Game Boy or just like you would hear it on a Genesis. So there's a lot of artists now that are making music that sounds 8-bit or 16-bit, and it can be used in a lot of different ways, whether it be for hip-hop. Primarily it's used a lot for electronic dance music, or sometimes it's used for lo-fi type music. And some bands will actually maybe integrate it into what they're already doing. Like Urizen is a metal band, but they have a chiptune track that goes along with what they do. I think most people will know chiptune music and think Anamanaguchi, who composed the soundtrack for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And they're definitely the most popular and prominent act in the whole chiptune genre, or scene rather, because they could do like international tours and draw thousands of people to their shows. But it's just a cool, catchy music. But if you like hearing that Game Boy or Genesis sound used in a very melodic, catchy way, then chiptune's definitely for you. And I'm pretty sure that if you grew up listening to NES music and digging it, then you're definitely like chiptune in general.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy. I think, and for a lot of people who haven't been exposed to this music yet, I think that's a great way to if you have like something you can kind of compare it to, just give you a better sense of like what you're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of just like getting into it, you've got an event coming up, don't you? A couple weeks, right?
Yeah, so we've been doing live events for about 7 years now, usually in concert venues, but the pandemic has forced us to change a lot of our plans for the year. Like, we were able to get one show off this year. We're actually supposed to have a show this past weekend in downtown Orlando, and obviously that didn't happen. So we've been trying to figure out what we're going to do in the meantime, and we kind of procrastinated us because there's like a call out for us to do online shows. And now we're going to do online shows starting next Saturday, June 27th on twitch.tv/Ongaku Overdrive. We're doing a show called Virtua Ongaku, and I'm excited about it because it'll be a monthly series of shows until it's safe to do shows again in person. But it's going to give us a chance to bring entertainment to our fans and also provide acts with the ability to make some money as well performing, because everyone lost their gigs. At least 6 months worth of gigs have been lost due to coronavirus. That meant like conventions, festivals, tours all got canceled, and a lot of the guys in our community, they depended on that money to actually pay their bills or further their music career, right? So they've been trying to figure out what to do, and a lot of them have taken up to Twitch, either doing gaming or music production online, or they've done concerts themselves, or they're using Patreon as a platform and pushing that to get some kind of revenue in during this time. So we're going to help out the music community that we've worked with for so many years and put on these shows to help these acts make money while also giving people a reason to stay inside, because right now we need more of that.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And I want to talk a little more about Ongaku and the event coming up, but I did want to touch on this since you brought it up. We've talked I don't know, guys, what, probably like 3 or 4 episodes now in the last few weeks about like how music has just been exploding on Twitch, mainly because of coronavirus. Ken, you've known me for a year, and I think I brought this up to you last year, but I've been a huge advocate of live stream music. Every musician I talk to, I'm like, you got to get on Twitch. You have to do it live. Like it's such an emerging market. And it's like, this feels like one of those moments where it's like, there's still time for you to get in and establish yourself early and like stake your claim, get in the ground floor type of thing. And I'm just kind of curious, man, because like you said, now, typically I know you had your events, and you would schedule them, I guess, at least yearly, maybe a little more often than that, depending on what you were doing. But now that your hand is kind of being forced, and your audience is saying, like, no, man, we want this, like, do it virtual because we don't want to miss out. You just said like, hey, I can do these monthly now. Do you kind of see like you working that? Let's say everything normalizes and we're all back to normal and we have a vaccine or whatever. Do you see yourself kind of making that just like a standard thing? Like you still have the live events, but then you're also supplementing it with like these virtual events?
That is the long-term plan. So for now, it's going to be monthly. And then we start doing live shows, we're going to evaluate how often we do them online. Because there's definitely benefits to that. One, there are all sorts of acts all over the country. But bringing acts to Orlando has a huge overhead cost when it comes to travel. Yeah. So like flights, hotel, on top of paying them to perform, right? But with this model, no one has to travel to Orlando to play. So acts that might have been higher risk financially, that we normally wouldn't book in the past, we can now book because now all we do is pay them to perform. We don't have to worry about the travel costs and having to recoup that through ticket sales. So that makes things interesting because acts I've been wanting to build up, I now have a platform to build up on. And it's looking like, from what I've been seeing with other online shows like Virtual VGM Fest, that there's definitely a crowd that wants to watch these shows online. They can't always be at MagFest. They can't always come out to shows in their town, or maybe they're in a town where there are no shows, or people in Orlando, maybe they don't want to go out because it's not safe to go out right now. So we've been using this time to just build up. We can use this time to build up our audience online and bring awareness to what we do live when it's time to do shows live. But we can still do these shows a couple times a year under normal circumstances to just build up acts that we want to bring down eventually. So that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it too. Is like it's an opportunity for the folks, the different acts that may not have the means to travel or just busy for whatever reason. Like this is a good opportunity for them to get some exposure, and for people like us and others who might be new to this, new to the scene, to like, get exposure from people that are, more geographically diverse and not just like here in Central Florida area. I think that's great. And
I've been really pushing, and we've been having some success with our big event in the fall. Like we've done a Zelda show in the fall, Mega Man, Final Fantasy events where we bring out acts that specifically play that kind of music, and now bring some people from outside of Florida to our shows. Like people will actually fly in for those shows, which is wild, and I do appreciate that. But maybe it's a chance to really expand that crowd, because I feel like in order for our event to really succeed, like any other major event, is bringing in people from out of town. So this platform might actually give us a chance to maybe speed up some of my long-term goals with Ongaku Overdrive.
That's nice, man. We've actually been talking to Ace about flying him down here, so maybe we'll have to plan something around one of your events or something so you can come check it out.
Yeah,
Ace has been pretty quiet.
He's contemplative, man. He's a thinker. He's the big thinker at StreamKick.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Does Ace have any favorite nerdcore acts or video game bands?
Ooh, no, I don't. I'm not all too familiar with that whole scene, and I'm, I've been looking around at some of this music, and like, I kind of wonder, and I'm not sure if this is just a stupid wonder or not, but I'm kind of wondering like if there's any overlap between the bands that are doing this and the actual like video game design. Like, I mean, obviously, like the music that, I mean, you kind of talked about how the music evolves with like updated games. Does like in the game, is that also the case for the music that these people are making? And also, like, is there any chance of like these people who are in the bands making video game music, like, is there any chance of that getting like picked up or used or like even incorporated into any kind of...
Man, I am so glad you asked that, because I have an answer for you. So what's really been awesome the past several years, like shows like PAX and MagFest and E3 book these kind of acts, right, to play at their shows, whether it be a Mega Man or a Super Soul Bros or Danimal Cannon, right? Well, these kind of shows bring out all kinds of game developers and designers. They're huge networking events on top of being showcases of the latest games. So let's say there's an after party and Danimal Cannon's playing, and a game designer who's thinking of a game idea, goes to see this concert and he sees Danimal Cannon, he's mind blown. Then he decides, I'm going to make a game with this kind of music and have Danimal Cannon and other acts like that have their music in the game. Then he does that, and that actually happened. Just Shapes and Beats on the Nintendo Switch, Steam, and PlayStation 4 has a lot of chiptune acts that I've either worked with or desire to work with in the future, including Danimal or Phantom Mech or Chipzilla, you know? So stuff like that's happening. Or James Landino, who's a prominent video game music composer, remixer. He's worked on stuff at Harmonix for Rock Band 4, and also I think it was Amplitude. I think I got that right. Not Frequency, but Amplitude. And he's doing a lot of freelance work for all kinds of independent games. Richie Branson, who is a prominent nerdcore rapper with a lot of video game and anime raps, he's working at Harmonix right now as we speak on one of the new IPs that they're going to be launching later this year. So it's becoming more apparent that the guys from our community, they're actual musicians. They're clearly very talented. They're playing at events where game designers and producers can see them and see how talented they are. So it's a great chance for them to actually just full circle get into the actual video game industry as musicians.
Yeah, man, that's absolutely awesome. It's kind of funny. Like I was just saying, like, I mean, you're like this. All this information is crazy, and I have all these questions myself, and I'm trying to like get a grasp on this, and I'm trying to like even imagine like explaining this to my parents or somebody who doesn't really know anything about this. Like, do you get any of those people that are interested? Is it like, is the demographic, is the audience of these people just like other nerds? Does anybody come up and ask you like, well, what is this?
Most of the time it is people that are already fans of video games and anime that come out. Like, but we've had a lot of new people come to our shows because of the Final Fantasy themed show or the Mega Man themed show, They may not already be into video game music bands or nerdcore acts, but then they see that, hey, here's a whole event that's dedicated to Mega Man that has live music and video game setups and prize raffles and a costume contest and all these other doodads, right? And then they come out and they see Mega Man or Bit Brigade for the first time. They're like, holy cow, this is awesome. I'm going to come back to the next one. And then the next one. That's happened with each of our shows. We are pretty much slowly building our audience little by little because people are willing to give it a try. And once they get in, they're hooked. Plus, I'm on the front lines anyways, going to events like Anime Festival Orlando or Free Play Florida or MegaCon, handing out flyers, talking to people, explaining what it is. So I've done a good job of just being the guy out there, the face of Ongaku Overdrive, just letting people know that, hey, what we do is pretty fun, it's a good time, and we keep our event prices pretty low, so instead of paying like $100 to get into a convention, it's maybe like $10, $15, $20 to get into our show based on the scope, so there's not a huge risk of like financial loss if you go to the event and you end up not liking it, but almost all the time people end up liking our show, so it's dope.
Yeah, event promoting, man, it's crazy. Like I've seen you do it. Like I've seen you out there at different events and stuff, hustling around and doing your thing, man. And I think that is a big reason why the event is so successful. Like obviously, like the energy you're putting into promoting it, it's 10x the amount of energy that goes into just like getting it set up and kind of organizing it, doing all that stuff. So I think what you're doing for the scene is amazing. I want to make sure that we're respectful of time and everything. I know we want to get into CEO stuff too, but real quick before we do. For folks, I know you've got the is it Virtua Ongaku? Is that the name of the event?
Yeah, Virtua Ongaku, kind of like Virtua Fighter. Even the logo looks similar,
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, we were coming up with that name, and I'm thinking, well, it's a virtual console. When I think about that, I think of like the Sega arcade games, like Virtua Tennis, Virtua Fighter, Virtua On. I'm like, let's go with that motif. But it's gonna be a monthly series, and our first one's on June 27th, live on twitch.tv/Ongaku Overdrive. And I'm really excited about our lineup. It's pretty diverse. We got headlining it, Professor Shy Guy, who's a prominent chiptune pop artist. He actually sang the English version of one of the Dragon Ball Super ending themes that was on the Adult Swim block a while back, actually.
Nice.
So he's super cool. We've had him down here a few times. Then we have Lauren Leibowitz, who's part of Materia Collective and also Random Encounter. Not Random Encounter. Please delete that. We have Lauren Leibowitz. Who's part of Materia Collective and The Returners, which is a Texas-based video game band, but she's a flute player. She goes by Lauren the Flute, and she's going to be performing a mix of her songs and some Returners songs as well. And she sings very well, too. Like, she's an actual trained singer, so that's going to be cool. Nice. And then we have our landed musicians, Mark with a C and Jackson Perotti. Mark with a C has been performing for... Actually, he just celebrated his 20th anniversary, and he's done a lot of lo-fi, independent pop rock type songs. He's incredibly talented, very creative. Has a lot of
at the last one. I caught him at the last one. He was good.
Yeah, he has a lot of very creative songs. Like, he's just incredibly talented and smart. So he's going to be doing an acoustic set for the show. And then Jackson Perotti, many people have seen his stuff on YouTube and Twitch. He's a very talented accordion player, but he's also taken up piano over the last year, and he's gotten really good at it super quick. His shtick is he likes to take requests online. So when he's going to be playing on the show, the people in the chat on Twitch are going to have to like call out songs that they want him to play. So if they're like, play the theme of Cowboy Bebop, he's going to start playing the theme of Cowboy Bebop. Or if it's like, play something from Yoshi's Island, he'll start doing that as well. So his set's fully interactive. So I think that'll be a thing that people are going to really appreciate for the show next Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's cool though. I mean, you take full advantage of the fact that you guys are going to be live streaming this and pulling that audience piece. I just saw, just from the one event that I went to, I just saw that a lot of the acts were really good at engaging the audience, and you do not see that often in live events. So definitely check this out. June 27th. We'll put the link and everything in the show notes and all that, and push it out on social and everything. Definitely check it out. We're going to be there. I'm looking forward to it. Ken, I wanted to talk a little bit about the CEO side of stuff that you do, man.
Yeah.
I personally, like, I grew up playing fighting games. Like, I cut my teeth on like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think, man.
King of Fighters, maybe.
Which one?
King of Fighters.
I played a little bit of that. I wasn't too big into it, man. I went super hard on Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Dead or Alive, I think, was one I played for a while. But
oh yeah,
Virtual Fighter was a lot of fun when that came out. I think that was like one of the first like 3D fighters that came out. That was a lot of fun. But talk to us a little about CEO, like, just for people who don't know what it is or haven't experienced it. Can you describe what it's all about and kind of like how like this whole fighting game thing just kind of like coalesced in Orlando? I think that's like super cool too.
All right, so the story goes that there's supposed to be a big esports event happening in Orlando, I would say about 10 years ago. I would say 2010, 2009, something like that, right? And the promoter running that event just flat out bailed out just a few weeks before the show had started. And then you got all these players who are like, what the hell? So Alex Jabali, who's the founder of CEO, he decided, we need to still do this event on this weekend. We need to do something. So everyone pulled all the resources, consoles, TV screens, etc., and did this all in an air hangar at the Central Florida Fairgrounds. And they called it Community Effort Orlando because everyone in the fighting community in Orlando pulled together to make sure this event still happened. And it was a pretty big success considering that they had 3 weeks to just turn everything around after this previous promoter just bailed out, right? So
that's amazing.
It did so well that Alex like, all right, let's try to build it better and make it a real event with a full year to plan, right? So they made the Wyndham Orlando Resort on International Drive their home for many years, and it grew substantially. But what was cool about it, moving forward with that, is that Alex is a huge pro wrestling fan, much like anyone else who grew up during the 90s. So he wanted to have this whole wrestling aesthetic with it as well. So he got an actual wrestling ring as the main stage for the finals of all the different tournaments, whether it be Street Fighter 4, King of Fighters 13, whatever the Mortal Kombat game was at the time. I believe Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was pretty huge.
Oh, that was another one. Yeah, that was a really fun game.
Yeah, so it's like having all those tournaments over that particular weekend, and when they get to the finals, everything's inside of the wrestling ring. They have the table set up with the monitors, chairs set up, and when players come down, they come down to a theme song. They have a whole wrestling style entrance in, and made CEO stand out incredibly because no one was doing anything like that. Before, everything would just take place inside a hotel, ballroom, or convention center in a kind of sterile environment. But CEO was incredibly lively, and that kind of feel was infectious, and it just built up the hype year after year, and the attendance grew year after year. Then it started becoming more wrestling adjacent when Alex came up with the idea of like, well, let's start bringing wrestlers out to our events. So we got Xavier Woods from WWE, and Kenny Omega, who at the time was in New Japan Pro Wrestling in the Bullet Club, and he brought both those guys out. But like, not only was it they just came there to hang out, but they came there to compete. So it's kind of a taboo in wrestling where if someone's in one company and someone's in the other company, they can't really like fight each other, right?
Yeah.
Just
like old school like WWF and WCW, like those guys are not like intermingled. Yeah.
But in this case, they competed live in front of like thousands of people on stage. Street Fighter 4 best of 5 or whatever, right? Going back and forth. And I believe Kenny Omega won that match, which that blew up online in the wrestling world as well as the video game world because the New Japan Pro Wrestling guy beat the WWE guy in a fighting game. So everyone was talking about that, and that just added more exposure for CEO to the wrestling community because there's a lot of wrestling fans who are also gamers. There's a lot of fighting game fans that are wrestlers, so it made sense all the way through, and it's went up to the point where CEO's done shows at the Ocean Center in Daytona, having partnerships with New Japan Pro Wrestling to have a show there. And then when Kenny Omega left New Japan and found AEW, All Elite Wrestling, they did All Elite Wrestling Fighter Fest last year in front of a packed Ocean Center, which that was wild because that was the same building that the New World Order was formed, you know?
Yeah.
So, with
awesome.
Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
That's right, man. That was right. It was funny you say that because I was literally just watching YouTube clips the other day of the Kevin Nash, the Scott Hall, and all those guys rolling out doing the New World Order. And I remember growing up as a teenager and stuff, man. It was Mondays and Thursdays, and you made sure Mondays and Thursdays those were sacred nights. You were home, you had TBS TNT turned on, and you were watching that shit every Monday and Thursday, man.
Yeah, I agree, and something like that's happening now with All Elite Wrestling and NXT on Wednesday nights, but I don't know, wrestling's pretty exciting, and it fits right in with the whole fighting game culture, so
yeah,
it just helps CEO blow up, and we had a big year planned, because this year was going to be like the 10th anniversary of CEO back in Orlando at the Wyndham Orlando Resort, and it was supposed to happen at the end of the month, but obviously things had to change due to the pandemic.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But I think you mentioned this like really early on, but like I think Alex and the team that kind of do this, you included, you guys deserve a ton of credit for this because you've taken, fighting game esports generally, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this. Ace is kind of our resident esport expert and everything, but I know like fighting games in the greater like esports community don't get a lot of the same kind of recognition as like some of the bigger stuff like League and Dota and some of the Blizzard titles and just the really flashy stuff. And what I think is amazing about what Alex and you guys have done with CEO is like you've taken an element of esports that doesn't have the same kind of reputation or same like sparkle to it that the other stuff has, and you've said, you know what, fuck it, we're going to embrace that, we're going to do things our way. And that culture, combining that with like wrestling and everything, is like such a genius move because that's kind of wrestling's thing too. Wrestling is like, fuck you, we don't care what you think about us, we're going to get in here and do our shit, and people love them for it, and that's like part of the appeal of it. And so those two worlds coming together, I think is just genius. Like own who you are, embrace it, and just let that identify the sport and the culture.
Yeah, I agree, and it's growing. I feel like fighting games in general are growing now to the point that even like the sub niches, like quote unquote anime fighters, like Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue and Dragon Ball Fighters and Under Night are all exploding. But then you got the mainstay fighters like Tekken 7, which has sold over 5 million copies, which is amazing. Street Fighter 5 still has a lot of steam to it. And those are really huge games, and people are now getting back into Mortal Kombat 11 because the Aftermath expansion pack has brought a lot of people into that game. So there's a lot of stuff to be excited about in fighting games in the next year.
Now, the ranking system in like these fighting games is also really different because it's not usually a team sport, and it's also really easy to like everybody kind of knows. I feel like the rankings, like oh, he's top 50, he's top 20, he's top 10. How does that kind of affect like the dynamic at the events? Is it like, oh man, so and so just walked in, he's huge, like, well, that's crazy. Do you notice like increase in attendance or viewership with like bigger names there as well?
Yeah, that was another thing that Alex spearheaded that I should have probably mentioned, is getting top fighting game players like Daigo Umehara from Japan. Probably butchered his last name, I apologize. And Justin Wong
He's a big listener of the show, man, so you might have to
yeah. then Justin Wong, who's huge in the West, and they have a very famous rivalry going all the way back to the Evolution Championship Series, otherwise known as EVO, and bringing those kind of guys out was incredibly huge for CEO, because now it's like, now not just this thing in Orlando, now we got this thing that's going to bring out all kinds of people from all over the country and the world. Like, CEO is an international event. People from dozens of countries in all the United States come out for a weekend in Orlando, enjoy International Drive, enjoy the fighting game community, enjoy the competition. So I think bringing guys like Daigo and Justin Wong were just as critical as bringing out Kenny Omega and Xavier Woods, if not more so. and that was done way sooner. So nowadays you got big fighting game players like Sonic Fox, who everyone knows because he's a black gay furry who's really good at Mortal Kombat, really good at Dragon Ball FighterZ, like a top player, and he's a very vocal tournament player as well. Not only is he not at fighting game events, he's also at furry conventions, anime conventions as a guest that people can do meet and greets with and go to panels and see, And he's taken awards at things like the Video Game Awards show that happened a couple years ago as the top esports personality or top content creator, and making statements that gets people talking on social media. So we have guys like that now, and it's pretty cool.
So I saw a meme on I think it was Reddit the other day. I forget where I saw it, but someone posted it. I don't remember what the image was, but I just remember the message. It was something about like Street Fighter fans or Street Fighter players and maybe it was Mortal Kombat players, and it was like the two arms like locked together like brothers, and they were agreeing on the fact that Smash Brothers is not a fighting game.
Oh man, it's such a controversial. Well, I think it is a fighting game. I think people are mad because it's not a traditional fighting game. I think a lot of the hate on Smash is largely due to how the community conducts themselves. Because the Smash community is very notorious for having lower hygiene than the average fighting game player. Also, conducting themselves very unprofessionally at events. Sometimes, usually very immature. And usually, when it comes to things happening online, they freak out the most. And there's a strong sense of entitlement in the Smash community. It's kind of like it's been like a love-hate relationship between the Smash community and the fighting game community, because there were times before the fighting game boom of 2009 for these fighting game events to even exist before CEO, you had to have Smash Brothers Melee in there. No one wanted Smash Melee there, but in order to cover the cost of renting a venue and like existing as an event, you had to have the Smash Melee players. Then the fighting game boom happened with Street Fighter 4 and Tekken 6 and all that coming out. And those games were so popular that for a short period of time, the fighting game events were like, we don't really need Smash anymore. We got Street Fighter 4 and Tekken 6. But then when those games cooled down, it's like, well, coming right back to the Smash community. And the reality is the Smash community needs to be at fighting game events for fighting game events to grow and succeed, right? So it's become more of a... things are smoothing out over time, but there's always that my fighting game is better than your fighting game. Like, there's even like hostility directed towards the anime fighting game community with BlazBlue and Guilty Gear and all that. So I think what it all comes down to when people become fans of a particular game, all the other games suck and they're not real games of this genre. So I think it really boils down to that. I'm pretty sure with esports there's Overwatch versus Apex Legends. I'm pretty sure those beefs exist as well, right?
It's Valorant now. Valorant versus CS:GO. That's the new that's the new meme.
That's true, yeah. So that's going on. So I guess I'll plug it real quick. CEOs was supposed to happen at the end of this month, and it still is, but on the internet. So CEO Gaming has a Twitch channel, and they stream tournaments on there. So if you're not able to be in Orlando or Daytona live for these events, they've always had the CEO Gaming Twitch, and they've had various partners and sponsors to support that. So I'll plug it, and I'm pretty sure Alex Jabili will appreciate this. So June 27th and 28th on CEO Gaming, there will be tournaments for Ultra Street Fighter 4, that's a throwback, Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath, and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 that'll be taking place over that weekend. You can go to ceogaming.org to find out more about that. The flagship event that was going to happen at the end of the month is still happening, but it got pushed all the way back to December 11th through the 13th. And I'm pretty sure the game lineup will probably change to reflect what's currently popular. But that'll be at the Wyndham Orlando Resort, so you can book all your stuff now. And hopefully, when it hits December, it's safe to do all these events again. I'm hoping for, because I had plans for the year, and I'm slashing stuff off the list like everyone else.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, how much like this has affected everything. But it's cool to see that you guys are sticking with it and you're following through and getting these things done. I mean, I think it's a testament to like how much energy and effort you guys put into this and how passionate you are about it, but also just the importance of just keeping these events alive for the industry and everything. I think that's great. So it's good that you're doing that. Listen, man, I know we're out of time, but I feel like we could go on for an hour. I think we need to have you back in a couple weeks, and all I want you to do is just say the names of nerd music bands for like 30 minutes straight. I think that'll just make a great show.
I could do that. I mean, we're going to have virtual Ongaku too, so look out for that. And maybe we'll have some updates on CEO moving forward as well, because we're supposed to have CEO Taco in September, and that's kind of iffy right now. So maybe we'll have more information on that as well.
Nice, man. Well, we'll definitely have you back on the show, Kent, with Ongaku Overdrive and CEO Fighting Game Championship Series. Man, we really appreciate coming on the show, brother. Thanks a lot for coming on. That's going to do it for this episode of the StreamKick Podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can find us on Twitter at StreamKick Pod, Instagram also at StreamKick Pod, and on the web at StreamKick.com. Robo, who was uncharacteristically quiet on this show, where can folks find you?
So if you want to find me, I'm on Twitter at RoboKast. I'll throw that video that I mentioned in my one line that I said in this episode on there of the band. I'm also on YouTube, RoboKast, RoboKast. I post gaming content, so check me out on there.
And Ace, how about you?
As always, follow me on Twitter at Ace Aspires.
And Mr. Kent, if you want one more plug for you personally or anything else that you want to do, fire away, man. It's all yours.
Yeah, you guys could follow Ongaku Overdrive on everything at Ongaku Overdrive, or you can go to ongakuoverdrive.com. They'll have all the links. If you guys want to personally follow me on Twitter, that's Fist of the MFK. So hope to see you guys on that.
Right on. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week.